Hello and welcome to Journeys and Journals. I'm Bernie Martin Beck and I get to tell stories. The story today is about a friend of mine. Well, my earliest memories had Kay Campbell being born here in Grants Pass, right?
Correct.
And Kay had a big brother named Bud, who was my little chum. Well, there's pictures of him here. Yeah, we had lots of fun. Our moms were best of friends.
Best friends.
You know, you lived out there in the country, but your dad was a special friend. This guy's name was Doc Campbell. That's what we all called him. And Auntie Opal Campbell. And then here's little Kay and Bud. Now, your dad had some very special qualities. One was 6'6", it's enough.
Right. He was my giant.
And he had a brother who's
6'4".
Little bit. Both were Doc Campbells here in town. One was a chiropractor and one was
Chiropractor naturopath.
and they had a saying, if you could climb up the stairs to their office, he could get you well.
He could get you well, right.
But Doc had a family project, or maybe it was just his love. What about this guy?
He met a friend in a logging camp in, I believe, the state of Washington at one time, and his name was Al Melvin. He had a gold mining claim here, and
in southern Oregon, up Galease Creek, or is that?
Taylor Creek.
Taylor Creek.
The cabin, for years, they would go up and do the assessments and go up there. And that cabin is now over at the Kirbyville Museum.
It is, and I've been in it. And how did it get there?
I believe they airlifted it.
They sure, it was about to be torn down with all the other cabins, and your dad talked to the Forest Service, and he said, you know, old Al's cabin, right, would be fine to have in a museum. And at first I thought they picked it up in one.
No, they disassembled it, but took the timbers and the logs and things, and then took it over to there and then reassembled it. That's my understanding.
Absolutely. So when you go to Kirbyville Museum, you've got something to look for. Did you know his last name?
Al Melvin.
Melvin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did he become part of your family?
My father and him, like I said, met in a timber logging in the earlier years of my father's, I guess, young adulthood. And they just had a good friendship. And so then when my father moved to Grants Pass area, Al followed him, and they just remained friends through the year. Sometimes when the weather was too bad up at the cabin up on Taylor Creek, Al would come and take one of the rooms or share a bedroom or something at the house. So he was just like a family member. Mm-hmm.
Well, their house had a wonderful workshop out back. And I understand it was just like he had a place.
Yes.
He had a home. Now, Taylor Creek, you go out to the morning place. That's the end of the road.
Correct.
And then you'd start climbing.
It was 8 miles walk in. And I didn't often go in. When I was a little girl then, and I didn't like the walk in there. I didn't like the rattlesnakes. So I often would stay with your mom, Bernie, when the folks would go in.
And I'm trying to compile a whole book about this cabin, because they used to do things on play games and have wonderful, wonderful time to pass the night hours so they could work all day and then hike out those 8 miles, sorry. Yeah, here you are, little bitty Kay. And we had all these kinds of, I'm sure that must have been one of the sailor birthday parties that we had. Birthday parties, celebrations, and there Bernie sitting in Kay's little chair. This is a wonderful story, Kay. What are you and the Siskiyou Ski Club all about?
My father, I think, was one of the started this Siskiyou Ski Club here in the Grants Pass area. And it was quite large. I think a lot of times they would go up to, was it government camp, and they would go up here
right off 99, there was a rope tow. I remember being on that.
My brother was real little. He would go on the ski trips, and actually at that time my father made his first pair of snow skis.
I know, they were about this big, and Bud could just, Harold, Bud's name is Harold Jr.?
Correct.
Okay, so lots of people will know him, and he was a chiropractor here in town. Kay, you brought so many, even these elephant pictures. Now that was when the fair was
here one time,
and
I believe your father called my dad and said, "Hey, come on out and bring the kids, and we'll get some pictures with the elephants." So I know you're there too, and we took pictures out there.
Well, the elephant truck broke down, and so it had to be repaired in my father's Studebaker shop. And wow,
it was a golden opportunity.
Don't miss those golden opportunities. That's really what we're going to talk about, folks. You've just heard the background of Kay and Bernie and how we've been chums for, well,
a long time, Bernie. We don't need to mention years.
But we've got something else in common, and that's what all the props are doing around here, and that's what I wanted to talk about, because Kay is a survivor. And this was her wig, and I don't know if I can get that wig off, because when I saw her 2.5 years ago, Kay was just as bald as that, right? 2.5, 3.5.
It's been right at 3 years now.
Why were you bald? I mean, I remember the little blonde curls like this. Next thing I knew,
I was diagnosed with 3 kinds of cancer. I had ovarian cancer, fallopian carcinoma, and non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
And?
I had surgery. I had a mass the size of a football. Did not even know it until, you know, the last little bit.
Wow.
It is definitely what they call the silent killer.
Once you learned about it, you progressed rapidly to get treated.
I did. I had surgery and then started chemotherapy. And
the chemotherapy, that's where this good old bald head and the good old wig come into play, right?
Yeah, my daughter, she wanted me to go and get a wig before my hair fell out so it could match and the style would be the same, and because she didn't want me to be self-conscious or anything.
Right, right. Well, these lovely hats were a gift to me from the Cancer Society from my doctor over in Medford. And I thought I was going to be just as, well, let's see, as bald as that guy. But you've been an encouragement to me, Kay, because I just got my own diagnosis, and this is lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, cell, anyhow, stage 3, I don't know what all they have all these names. And they've been so kind to me as to sort of, hey, take along as many hats as you'd like. How long did you last with the wig?
Actually, I went through my chemotherapy for the 6 treatments.
I know,
and
it looked a lot cute.
I wore the wig, and then I went, within a year later, I had a reoccurrence, and I had to go in for surgery again. And then it was in the summertime, and you know, it's kind of warm. And I thought, you know, this just isn't going to work. And the second time I went through chemo and lost my hair, or it was starting to fall out. I can remember coming home from Milo and I thought, you know, this is horrible, and I just went to the beauty shop and just had it all shaved off. And I never did wear a wig that time.
So around town you would see
this shiny bald head.
And with this little girl, a little baby who had a shiny round head. Because how did this little girl come into your life?
This little girl has been my godsend, truly. I'm a foster parent, and I received a telephone call actually the very first time I was in the hospital and asked if I would take a newborn. The baby wasn't born yet, but would I take it for a while? And I said, at that time I was reluctant because I didn't know my diagnosis or prognosis or anything. And then by the time I got out of the hospital, I thought, why not? You know, I love babies. And so Katie came into my life as a day old. And
one day old.
She came the morning that I had to go to the oncologist that afternoon, and that's when I found out that I had 3 kinds of cancer. And I remember looking at my daughter, and she went with me, and
You have another girl?
I have another adopted daughter, yes. And I looked at her and I said, what have I done? And she said, Mom, this baby needs you, and you need this baby. And she's my miracle child. She is adopted her now, and she is the light of our family's life.
So besides 2 adopted little girls, one who's grown woman now.
One who's a grown woman.
And made you grandma.
Made me grandma, yes.
And
I have 3 boys.
Big boys. They're
big boys. My children are a vast difference in age. The oldest one just turned 40. The youngest one will be 3 on Friday.
Ooh, happy birthday, baby. Kay, our stories have had such close, I mean, your mom and dad were uncle and aunt. I guess my mother felt like if they died, your family'd take us in. Was that reciprocal?
That was reciprocal. I always knew that if something happened to my parents, that your parents would take care of us.
How's that for community? Lovely, lovely thing to have that kind of support. And now Kay and I have this in common. You know, I walked with her through her walk.
And I'll be there for you.
Thanks. Boy, that got to me. Kay, save the moment for me, would you please? Gleaner is a church newspaper, magazine for all of
North Pacific Union, the constituents.
That includes Adventists in Alaska, Washington, Oregon, Idaho.
Alaska. Did you mention that? Alaska.
And some places. And here you are. You've written the article. About what?
Milo Adventist Academy. It's celebrating its 50 years this April. And
the year 2005. So
the first year was 1955.
Folks, I just had to smile because this is the covered bridge, the original.
The original, yes.
And this was the Corwin Ranch?
Correct. The Bar Lazy 8.
Bar Lazy 8, just out of
Days Creek, between Days Creek and Tiller.
There used to be a Milo post office, but somehow that got negated in Canyonville is nearby. But folks, look in this picture. What do you see crossing the bridge? You maybe just saw a pickup.
But you saw a Studebaker.
Yeah, we went up there and visited the Corwins before it was to become a school. And then I was there the first year it became a school. Kay, what are you bragging about with a whole page here right at the front of the book?
I think mainly what I'm bragging about is that God allows us to be workers for Him in helping mold the students' lives for service.
Yeah, you've put the Jeremiah. 18 passage here. Clay in the potter's hands. You know, clay in the potter's hands. That means your diagnosis, your up-and-coming doctor's appointment, my appointment to this, I leave right after the show today for Portland, Oregon Health Science. Is that
Right.
the whole name of it? On top of the hill in Portland is Dornbecker, and there's the University Hospital, all these hospitals. And I've chosen to go there. I've chosen a doctor who is doing a research project along with a number of other, something like 60 other companies, other doctors, for a company to use a new approach for lymphoma. I'm kind of excited and scared. Yes, I'm scared. But if it works, it might help you. It might help others. Have you seen positive results of cancer in your life? I mean, it's a terrible
disease. It's one that doesn't have any respect for anybody. It starts in, you know, Bernie, God can lead so much, because when I had the first time gone to physicians here in town, which are great, but my doctor at that time was on a medical leave of absence when it came back, and so my kids were quite excited that I go and go somewhere else and get another opinion. And so I called Portland and made an appointment, went into this clinic, and when I got there, the doctor asked me, he said, and who referred you? And I said, I wasn't referred, I just called in. And he says, no, he says, you have to be referred to come to the clinic, you know, referred by a doctor. And I thought for a moment, and I thought, you know, I had really prayed that God would lead me where he wanted me to be. And so I just said, well, then God sent me. And he just grinned, and he said, okay.
Well, I was impressed to go to the web and search out, because I just had, you know, this is 2005, and my diagnosis was not, I mean, until February, we really didn't have a diagnosis. This is one day past February, you and I are talking. So I'm so new to all this, but when they started talking about, I went to the web, my husband's very accomplished, found everything he could about cancer research. And there's a ton of it on there. And so we chose 4 hospitals. 4 things came to, you know, West Coast. I'm a West Coast person. Portland, Seattle, Loma Linda, and San Francisco, because we lived near Stanford. And so we started researching this way and this way and this way. Called people. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Very day that I got the diagnosis, here came this paper, Lymphoma Society. Leukemia, lymphoma, here's the 800 number. I went, God thing again, right? I checked, called them, so helpful, so cooperative. Oh, we'll have the things in the mail. You'll get them Monday, next day. And then they told me an interesting thing. They said, you know, we have money here to help with your expenses. And I said, well, that's need-based, isn't it? He said, no, it's research-based. You know, they want to know about me. They want to know about you. Mm-hmm. Man, do I feel special. You got pictures of you with the hair and no hair.
One thing that I would like to say about the cancer, and that is people will have a lot of anxiety if they're facing this. As you know, every time I have to get ready to go for my 3 months checkups, about 2 weeks before, I'm just a basket case, you know.
Can't even sew, right?
Can't even sew, can't do anything.
She was making wedding dresses.
And you find yourself on your knees a lot because that is the only peace that you have. I know when I was diagnosed the second time, I just totally fell apart. I thought, you know, why me again? And
I'm so young.
Yeah, I know.
I'm 5 years younger than Bernie.
I talked to the pastor and he says, Kay, you just need to go out by yourself and nobody else, nothing, and just find that communication and find peace. And I said, well, I can't leave Katie at home. And he said, well, then take Katie. But we did. We went out and we camped in the van and we read and we prayed and we talked and we walked until I found that peace again. And God is there. And I can't express enough. It was told to me, and I can't express enough to other people, that a positive attitude is more healing than anything.
Well, I've been gifted with an attitude that says, okay, now what do we do? So I'm free from so much of the why me and poor me. I called our conference president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church here in Oregon. You know the man.
He's had lymphoma.
He's had lymphoma, 33 years old. And he talked to me for like 45 minutes. And then I called Loma Linda University and the guy in the research department, another 45, and a doctor in Medford, another. You know, I'm starting to feel like, why am I so special? But once you've walked the walk, like you have, you can talk the talk. Kay, your life has moved on in so many ways.
I have some pictures here. You wanted to see one with a wig. This is actually
this is Kay with this.
Had gone out to see my daughter, my oldest daughter, Lisa Callahan, is a pediatric nurse practitioner here in Grants Pass. She was taking a trip down the river, and so we went to send her off. I have a real quick story about the wigs, so people don't think it's real funny. Is I had taken my older granddaughters to Arizona with me, and we stopped by Las Vegas, and we were getting our luggage back into the car, and all of a sudden, one of the bungee cords broke loose off of the thing, and it flipped over, grabbed my wig, and just sailed my wig way over. And I wasn't sure who was laughing the hardest, my granddaughters or me. We were just rolling. And it was pretty much from that time on that I didn't wear the wig on that trip either. It was a nuisance.
A sweaty?
A sweaty nuisance. There were lots of times where we had a lot of fun with it. You know, right now, Katie, she likes to wear it. She calls it her hat, her hair hat.
Well, this scarf arrived today from one of my well-wishers. You know, she just heard about my cancer and she whipped this together and here it was. And I thought, well, perfect, I'll wear it. So thank you, Marguerite, all the way from San Diego or Capistrano?
Capistrano?
Yeah, just a gift from you. And you know, whether or not I lose my hair, because if I go the new research method, I will not lose my hair. They will, I've chosen Oregon Health out of all those others doing all the research, and they want me to be part of a study group. Why not? Why not if I fit in perfectly? So right after this show, we head for Portland, and they do the needle biopsy, or a biopsy of the abdominal mass. You said yours is how big?
It was, I was told it was the size of a football.
Oh, and see, I'm only cantaloupe size, so aren't we funny? We talk about it this way. Kay has been such a blessing to me, and today I got a call from the Lymphoma Society, some woman just wanting to bridge across. She'd also suffered, and Bible verse, Bernie's favorite, with the same comfort you've been comforted, comfort one another. When, Kay, I don't know how many people you had surround you, but I know that I've had dozens of people that have, supported me with a word, a card, even a fresh fruit, whatever. Do you recommend, the Bible says that we should rejoice in suffering. I can't imagine it. I'd like to send this to Sandy with our love.
We have to have faith, is what I believe in, and faith that whatever comes our way, that we have the courage to accept.
And that it can be used in some kind of positive way in the future. So folks, it doesn't matter if you have a broken tooth. If you're willing to be honest, before we say goodbye, what's this picture all about?
That picture is, we used to take piano lessons, and those were our recitals. I remember when I was a little girl, I came running home from school, and my mom says that I told her I needed a reformal. And she could not figure out what a reformal was, and I was just so upset with her because she couldn't understand me, and she had to call, and then it dawned on her that there was a recital and I needed a formal.
And there's Kay, and there's Bernie up and Sharon, and oh my, yeah, and Alta Robinson, who was our patient. I think she got paid 50 cents a lesson, and she had to come from Medford. Kay, you've been a great friend and a great support, and we just...
Well, we may meet tomorrow because, see, I have a doctor's appointment in Portland also.
Oh.
So who knows,
Who knows? Thank you for, you're not going to say, but I know it has to be close to 60 years of friendship. I got to hold her and rock her when she came home. Oh, I was so proud of that little baby and her big brother. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Bernie Martin Beck, and we've walked some tough walks before. I'm not giving up this time.
Nope.